VolQuest's Austin Price joins us every Tuesday morning at 8:20. Basketball season may have just ended, but there is a ton to discuss on Rocky Top. A spring scrimmage for football, transfer portal shopping for hoops. Baseball team still ranked number one. Lots to get to as Austin joins us here this morning from Knoxville. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. We are good. Austin, out of the scrimmage last night, what is the biggest takeaway? What are you hearing that was significant for the Vols last night in Neyland Stadium?
I don't know if anything significant because it's a spring scrimmage, but
fair.
The talk out of the scrimmage is, Nico really had a strong night. That was from about 5 or 6 different people that normally are probably pessimists, and so they talked about just how much more calm and under control, and just some of the plays he made. Jake Merklinger had a nice night last night, and when you have quarterbacks that are having a couple of nice nights, normally you have receivers that are having a couple of nice nights. And Travis Smith made some plays. The kind of the trio of starters, Brazel, Mike Matthews, and Braylon Staley, all made plays and looked really good last night. And so, it was a nice night for the offense. And I would expect the defense to rebound a week from last night.
So, Austin, then I think the follow-up question to that is, how much do you think this offensive staff can take away, considering how banged up the secondary is? Is this about wide receivers taking that crucial step they need to take, or maybe a secondary that doesn't have Jermon McCoy and has a lot of new faces? Or is there a little bit of both going on, in your opinion?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, McCoy not out there. I think, too, we've talked about it, and I've certainly championed there's a lot of unknown. And even though, you find out a few things in the scrimmage, you're still not going to know until, you get to September. But, the unknown are these receivers that I think are more athletic. I think that position has, and it's still a thin position, but they're more athletic than a year ago and more explosive, and there's the chance that that's a better room production-wise than last year. And when you factor in the fact that Nico in year 2 as a starter versus year 1, he should be better. You start putting all that together, there's some elevated play throwing the football, right? And then, of course, as you pointed out, Jermon McCoy not out there, Tennessee, working through some things with some younger corners. It's natural for the offense to have a little bit more success right now.
Austin Price joining us this morning on RK Dub. When it comes to more parts of that offense, we speak about just how great of a leader Dylan Sampson was, what he did for this team in terms of elevating it last year. Where are we at right now with the running backs early on?
Tennessee likes the running back room. Deshaun Bishop just continues to do what he does. He falls forward. He makes plays. I mean, there's nothing ever oh my gosh, flashy. But he just makes plays. He just doesn't go in the other direction. Peyton Lewis continues to grow. And then, Star Thomas is a guy that's got a lot of versatility. DeJuan Morris flashed last night. So, again, there's a lot of unknown, though. That's going to be the theme at every position, is just players that haven't necessarily, maybe they showed a little, but they've not showed a lot. Running backs, receivers, you can go right, offensive line, you can go right down the list of those positions where Tennessee, in theory, could be better this year. You're not going to know it until you see it. And that's kind of where I think the running back room is. You liked what you saw out of Deshaun Bishop last year, but he was the number 2 to Dylan Sampson. Peyton Lewis flashed, late in the year. But, he was a backup. Now those guys are the 1A, 1B combination. What are they going to be like now that they're the starter and not the guy that comes in and spells a record-setting running back?
There are no new additions to this staff, Austin, and clearly they're looking for production at every position. But is there anything you can tell us early on about these new additions and maybe how the fit is so far?
Well, You talking about just overall?
Yeah.
Well, I think they've all come in. They've done a really nice job of, not only showcasing their ability on the field, but meshing with the room, right? Like they've done a nice job of being teammates, being leaders, getting, other teammates to go out to dinner, all those type of things. I think Tennessee's done a nice job with, their new players. They whether it's the recruiting class, the transfers, everybody's kind of hit the ground running, Kayla, and I think that's a good sign. Now, I mean, obviously not everybody's going to play this year, especially if you're a freshman, but those transfers, you're hoping, that the two offensive linemen continue their path, which certainly looks like, a chance to be two starters and two plug-and-play players, and you're hoping Star Thomas continues to showcase his versatility, and we'll see about Amari Jefferson. He's got to get healthy, but I mean, certainly Tennessee, has some hopes there as well. So, the transfers, they seem like they've done a nice job. I think Tennessee will go to the market for a defensive tackle in the coming weeks. I think they'll, potentially look at a receiver after spring, just because I think going into the season with 7 is really, really difficult. But on the whole, I think the new additions have done a nice job.
VolQuest's Austin Price, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kalen, Will. Austin, we've gotten used to having these high expectations for freshman wide receivers, and then they don't play major roles except in mop-up duty. For Travis Smith this season, how different could this be for him considering the lack of depth in that room, or is this business as usual where we're going to build up Travis Smith and then Josh Heupel will build him up, and then when push comes to shove, it's still going to be a rotation of 3, maybe 4 guys?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case because I don't think they can afford that to be the case.
Right.
In the years past, you had 5, 6 guys that were a little bit older than Mike Matthews or whatever. Like, you don't have that this year. And so, Chris Brazel is your oldest, most experienced player. I don't think anybody would consider Chris Brazel old or that super experienced. You look at the options 2 and 3 after Brazel. It's Mike Matthews, who played sparingly a year ago, Braylon Staley, who didn't play at all until the very end of the season because they were redshirting him. Those are your starters right now, and those are your most experienced receivers. After that, it's straight freshmen and then a transfer and Amari Jefferson, who might as well be a freshman because he didn't play last year at Alabama. So I don't think there's really an option. I think barring them going to the portal and adding a couple of guys that changes that, like Travis Smith's going to get action. And right now, Rodarius Jackson, with the way he has performed as well, will get some action. Like, this is going to be a situation where Tennessee, probably, again, will have to go to the portal because they can't go into the season with just 7 guys. I just think that's a recipe for disaster. You're a couple of tweaked ankles away from going, wait a minute.
Right. Totally.
Walk on, get in there.
Absolutely right. And it's always, it is on the fans. It's not reporters' fault per se, but it does feel like in the recruiting stars, hey, 5-star guy, hey, Travis Smith, number 10 receiver in the country, we build these guys up so quickly. I guess really what you're telling us, Austin, is Josh Heupel doesn't really have a chance to choose to adapt his philosophy on that. He's going to kind of be forced to at the receivers position specifically this year.
Yeah, forced change.
Right.
Like, there's forced change on the offensive line, just like there was forced change and the secondary a year ago. I think it's forced playing this year because of just kind of how it stacks up age-wise.
Totally. Well, Austin, shifting gears a bit in the basketball transfer portal, with Tennessee certainly being forced to bring in a lot of guys in the portal with as many openings as they have. Finishing up with Isaac McNeely, the Virginia transfer. How do you feel like Tennessee did with his visit, as that one looks to be, Austin, coming down to Tennessee versus Louisville?
Yeah, I think Tennessee's in play there. I think that they're a real option for Isaac. I think Tennessee likes him a lot, just like they like Gillespie a lot. Who's in the portal for Maryland. So Tennessee's going to be very, very aggressive But much like I said with football, with this portal, anything's possible, both good and bad. So, I mean, like you could see somebody leave Tennessee, and there ain't a whole lot of bodies on the roster because most of them graduated. But like, you can see Tennessee lose somebody just because, an agent gets in somebody's ear, and the amount of money that all these kids are asking for right now is pretty extreme, and you just never know. So you kind of just hang tight and see what happens. And I think Tennessee will be really, really aggressive with who they want to try to add. Obviously, Isaac is a player that Tennessee covets, and they got him in here pretty quick. And you're right, Tennessee versus Louisville. Right now, I would kind of lean Tennessee, but again, in this era, it can all change in a 5-minute span or with one phone call. So, we'll see kind of thing where things go. But I do think Tennessee will be aggressive, where you're seeing announcements in the next 3-4 days versus 3-4 weeks.
Austin Price, our good friend of VolQuest's, joining us this morning on RK Dub, talking a little hoops right now in terms of the Vols. And with the loss now of Jemai Meshack and, of course, Zakai Ziegler, I mean, obviously the leadership was such a big part of this team with those two guys. But when it comes to just guard play in general, how hard is it to find a match to a guy like Zakai Ziegler, who stayed in a program as long as he did?
Well, I mean, he's going to be the dinosaur, right? I mean, like the exception is Zakai Ziegler. The rule is you're going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most years in a program, and the 4-year players are going to be very rare. And replacing him, you're just trying to go get a good point guard. What he was able to do, I'm not sure you replicate. Now, again, you might not find the dogged defender like Zakai, but you might find an offensive player who's a little bit taller that can do different things than Zakai did. So it's all relative, but for his ability to think the way Rick thinks, to maneuver, to play, to just do all the little intangible things that he did, I'm not sure you replace that, but you can replace it in certain ways with a better player. So you just got to go out and try to find that player. Gillespie certainly could be, who's a little more an offensive threat. So Tennessee's, again, I think will be really, really aggressive in the transfer portal over the next few days.
Austin, on the women's side of things for Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols, their season ending in the Sweet 16, and by all accounts, Austin, that was the goal internally for that program and for that team to get back to the Sweet 16. How aggressive do you expect them to be in the transfer portal, and how high will expectations be for a program that, by many accounts, also has a top 3 or 4 recruiting class in the country at the high school ranks for next season?
I think they'll be really aggressive as well. Obviously, everybody knows that they're trying to look at the girl from Florida State, who's the top scorer in the country. And, Tennessee's also, had Tiana Todd on campus over the last, day or so, at BC transfer. She shoots it well from 3. All those things add up to, trying to be aggressive. When you're trying to get Tanaya Watson from Florida State and you're trying to get Tiana Todd from Boston College, you're trying to make over your game. Now, again, much like the men, the women, they're in this era, you have to prepare yourself that somebody could come out of the left field on the current roster that's supposed to be back that may decide to leave. But you just try to hold on, see if you can hold on to the players that you have, and then adjust. But right now, Tennessee's just trying to build around what they have, which is quite a bit back, right? I mean, you have obviously, Talasia Cooper back, you have Spearman back, Ruby Whitehorn back. They have a nice nucleus coming back, not to mention adding the high school class and adding some of these transfers. So a team that just went to the Sweet 16 could potentially be in position or to make an even deeper run next year if you can add the right players to this roster.
And Austin, final one for you with Tennessee baseball hosting Texas A&M this weekend. We thought maybe that would be another national title preview. Certainly not the case, as A&M has not held up their end of the bargain so far this season. But what is the latest with A.J. Russell potentially making his return to that Tennessee starting rotation? And just how good are the feelings around a Tennessee program right now that picked up another sweep over the weekend against Palmetary in South Carolina?
Just business as usual. Will, I mean, they just continue to, they win in different ways. They can bludgeon teams. They can get into, kind of high-scoring 10-8 type games. They can win a, pitching duel 3-2. They just find ways to win. And they've had the most impressive part of this baseball team is the fact that they replaced almost everybody, right? I mean, the pitching staff, all the major hitters, your top 2 home run hitters in your program history. And then when you throw in the fact that Amick had the second greatest home run season, only because Christian Moore, did what he did, had the second greatest home run season in Tennessee history. Just all that you replaced, and it's like they didn't even replace anybody. It's like they have the same team back from a standpoint of like how they mesh, how they click, how they win. I mean, it's pretty wild. The freshmen that have stepped up, and then even some guys like Dalton Bargo, who wasn't even a factor in the first SEC series. Maybe the last 3 weeks, your most clutch hitter and your hottest hitter, with doing what he's been doing from the DH spot. So it's been really, really impressive.
He is Austin Price of VolQuest's On 3, who joins us here on Tuesday mornings at 8:20, bringing us the latest out of Knoxville. Good stuff, Austin. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Austin.
Austin Price with us this morning. A little bit of basketball, football, and baseball. All right, we've got breaking news of the NFL rule changes, including one that many of us are going to absolutely love. That's next.